They rush four. Plenty of time for John. Now squeezes, steps up in the pocket. LA can run inside the 10. Head first. He dives off the 5-yard line.
65 horsepower trap. That might pop wide open, Rats. It's in there! Is that there, Rats? Nice going, baby. Yes, sir, Rats.
Welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. We are live with some new team members here. As you note, down directly below me, we have the one and only.
So I'm below
What?
you. I see how you are already. I'm below you.
I can't really rearrange it now. And this is Captain Jack Rackham. You know him and you love him. You can check him out on YouTube. And to my left, guys, you have no idea how hard this is to point on camera because everything is backwards, and I actually got it right. To my left is Coach Defense. All of our YouTube channels are down in the bottom of the video here. We are all here to talk about the draft, where we stand, who we picked, and who we wish we had addressed. So without further ado, Coach, I'd like to maybe fire it over to you to maybe kick us off to start with the Chargers.
Awesome. First, I'd like to welcome all of Captain Jack's loyal viewers to the Wild Wild West podcast, the home of the AFC West podcast, where the West side is the best side. So appreciate everybody that's coming into the Captain Jack for the Captain Jack viewership. But yeah, draft was great, man. I was pleasantly surprised with a lot of intelligent picks that a lot of teams made, in all honesty. And it was definitely a good draft, top to bottom for the Chargers. I believe we even picked up some depth in the later rounds that I wasn't expecting. That were, to me, could be surefire hits if everything breaks right. With the Chargers, I think we everything outside of receiver, a good solid deep threat receiver we addressed in the draft, and I'm pretty happy with it, honestly. Starting off with Zion Johnson, offensive guard. We got him with our first pick. It's funny that Tom Telesco, our GM, he put up on the board as we were passing the second round. Our second round pick was Khalil Mack, because we traded our second round pick to get Khalil Mack from the Bears. So that was a nice little kudos that he put up there on the board. Say, we're not drafting the second round. We already got Khalil Mack. I think that's a pretty daggone good draft pick in the second round. So we pick Khalil Mack in the second round, obviously. And in the third round, we got JT Woods from Baylor, safety, a sub 4.3 40 safety from Baylor. Now, I was harking the idea of Baylor being the track team from Baylor plays football in the offseason, because everybody in the Baylor's secondary runs 4.3 or better. So the Baylor secondary, we snagged one good guy off that group that was in the draft in JT Woods. And what I liked about JT Woods is that he played a star position in their Baylor defense. And what the star position is basically a hybrid. You can play outside linebacker in certain packages. You can play middle linebacker in sub. You can play slot corner, or you can play deep safety. So that basically leans toward the versatility of JT Woods' game. So and I envision Derwin James playing this role in our defense coming forward, but it will also give JT the ability to play deep safety with that speed. So speed, rangy, really, really good ball hawking safety. So I love that pick in the third round. And Captain Jack and I were discussing in pre-show about the fourth round. And the fourth round pick was actually interesting because we were looking running back, unbeknownst to a lot of Chargers fans, actually looking back up running back in the fourth round. And the Raiders jumped ahead of us one pick and picked the running back ahead of us, but we still ended up getting Isaiah Spiller, running back from Texas A&M, which is a really good change of pace back for us to go along with Austin Eckler, who was very good in pass protection and really good in catching the ball out the backfield. So he has three tools that's going to be very vital for the Chargers going forward. In the fifth round, we picked up Otito and I'm gonna get this last name right at some point, but I'm gonna say OG Banoe from UCLA. A good run stopping D tackle from UCLA. Go ahead, Pat.
You said Tito, right? You got to go. You know when you Tito. Stop it, Tito. Stop
Right.
it, Tito. You know, like that. You know, you got to do that. I'm sorry, man. You're gonna leave yourself open like that. I got
you couldn't miss the point. I got it. You couldn't miss on that opportunity. I get it. So yes, Tito is Otito is another run stopping D lineman that we needed up front to go along with the free agents pickups that we got. And Sebastian Joseph Day and Austin Johnson, you know, again, Khalil Mack is going along with that edge rushing defense. So something that was very needed in our defense from last year. That we was one of the worst teams in the run defense last year. So I think we shored that up pretty well. In the last few picks, we got Josiah Taylor from Wake Forest, cornerback, Dean Leonard, another cornerback from Ole Miss, and then Xander Horvath, a fullback from Purdue. Now I hadn't heard that guy's name until the 7th round of the draft, but I'm assuming they want him to come in and compete with Gabe Neighbors, our fullback. Hopefully, maybe he'll make the practice squad, but we'll see. But overall, I mean, again, outside of what we got, what we need a wide receiver as far as a deep threat, I think we checked all the boxes that we were absolutely positively needed. We showed up the O-line. Oh my God, I left out one guy. I'm sorry. Jameer Salier, offensive tackle from Georgia, who was an absolute positive steal in the 6th round. They had a 2nd round grade on him, and we picked him up in the 6th round. I didn't want to leave him out because I feel like that was an absolute steal. And I think a lot of national sports writers have agreed with me and said that, yes, that we definitely stole him in the 6th round because everybody was expecting him to go no later than the 2nd. And he fell to the 6th. Was a very good, very underrated run blocker, very physical guy. They passed around a clip on YouTube a few days after showing him pancaking Aiden Hutchinson in the playoffs. So definitely a solid pickup. So again, our O-line is solid. We got back and running back is checked off. We completely stout up front in the run game. So yeah, got another star safety from Baylor. So I think we're ready to go. And in a little sneaky free agency move to kind of a dig on you there, Rich, that we picked up Bryce Callahan in free agency as another cornerback to go along in our secondary. So we're looking like we're going to be a no-fly zone in LA. So I'm happy.
So that's a copyrighted name. Sorry, I had to.
I was gonna say he pissed you off so much. You done kicked
You cut me because I talked about Bryce Callahan. Okay, so clearly it's a good pickup because
yes.
I was just saying, it's like I was like, Coach, you got knocked out.
Right.
No, that was that was a twofer, really. That was a left hook followed immediately by a lean in right. You not only reminded me that you took a corner that I wanted us to re-sign, but then you went ahead and had your team post the Broncos secondary nickname that was cemented in stone as an attempt to try and steal that just because you happened to get one of our best cornerbacks.
Hey, man.
But no, honestly, Bryce Callahan's only issue, and it's not even play on the field. His play on the field is absolutely spectacular.
Injury.
His only issue is that his body just seems to keep failing him.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if he can somehow figure it out, or if he can get to a point where maybe the strength and conditioning staff, change over from kind of the Fangio style to kind of what you guys do there.
Mm-hmm.
If that can keep him on the field, then honestly, I think the rest of the AFC West should be quite scared because he is just an absolute stellar player.
Yeah, and I believe that he's going to play a little bit less based upon the depth that we have at corner. And I also feel like that, I told one of our Chargers buddies in the group chat yesterday when he asked me how I felt about the signing. I said, well, the biggest key to anything when it comes to defense is that getting the offense off the field. The longer you play, the more snaps you play, and the longer you play in a 60-minute game, that is going to ultimately result in injuries. It's just fatigue. It's a fatigue factor. So if he doesn't play, 50 or 60 snaps a game, then automatically he should be healthy by normal, less wear and tear on your body. So that particular aspect of our defense is going to be better. We get people off the field on 3rd down more so than playing long, elongated drives every night, every Sunday night. Then we should be fine.
Right. No, I think that's fair. It just, it still irks me a little bit just because I was really hoping we were going to get him back.
Yeah, Cal Fuller's still out there too. I didn't realize he was unsigned.
Well, you can have him.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can have him. Tell you what, we'll pick up Kyle Fuller with the intention of trading him to the Chargers.
No.
If you then give us Callahan instead, how's that?
No, we're good. We're good over
Right.
We are good.
So, so with regards to the Broncos, I'm not going to blast through the picks, but I'll just kind of give a couple of the ones that I'm not going to bring up in kind of our main topics that we're going to go over tonight. First round pick was Nick Bonito, edge, outside linebacker from Oklahoma. We then picked up Greg Dulcich, tight end from UCLA. And I'm pretty sure I mispronounced his last name, but
I think you did. You did right. I think that's right.
Oh, I did. Perfect. Great. And then we have Damari Mathis, safety from Pitt, who I actually really like. I think he's a good player. And then we have Ivanoma, and let's call him Ivanoma U, because I'm not going to be able to pronounce that last name, and I'm not going to try. Yeah, so I'm not gonna get that one right. He's actually one of my more intriguing picks of the draft for the Broncos, and I actually have him selected as the gentleman I think as our best pick in this draft. I think he covers off both need as well as skill set. He is both a good pressure in the middle of the field. He's also good at run stopping, and I think he'll sit really well and hopefully be able to learn behind DJ.
Okay.
On our D line, and even probably rotate in a little bit as well, because I think he's got the skill sets in order to do so. With all rookies in some of these positional groups, D line, O line, tight end, they all need to build muscle, right? Because they're just not used to this type of intense play. They're not used to going against men at this caliber. They're just not. They're used to college players that are just not in the same condition that NFL guys are. So, all of these big guys that are in the blocking type roles, they're all needing size, bulk, and stamina in order to really excel at the NFL level.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I was definitely intrigued by the picks that they made actually outside of the second pick in the fourth round. Don't have a lot of time in film history on these guys, but I think Nick Bonito was a slam dunk. Only question I have is that with two edge rushers already, and him being a really good speed rusher, I'm feeling like he's going to be a utility guy when he first gets into the organization and starts to play. Because you have Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory already cemented at those edge positions. So he's going to be more of a third down and special rush specialist in his first stint with or unless, Chubb or Gregory takes an injury, which you don't wish or want, obviously. But Bonito's definitely a solid pick. Definitely one of the more underrated edge players, speed rushers off the edge from Oklahoma. Greg Dulcich is a slam dunk as well, tight end. I feel like you almost kind of replaced Noah Fant with that pick. He has the same type of build and skill set that Noah Fant had, and coming into the fold this year from UCLA, teammate of Otito's, obviously. So I think that was a slam dunk. And yeah, I can see every time I cook you that day, you're just gonna set Cap off. I already see it. So yeah, then Damari Mathis is a solid player from Pittsburgh as well, cornerback. And what we calling him? Iyame U? That what we were saying? So we're going. Yeah.
No, it's actually, and thank you for Johnny for putting that. Enyoma Uwazurike.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Come on, man. It's like even I can say that. I can say it, and I can do it with the Tito. And it stop crying. Stop it, Tito. I'm not crying. But yeah, Enyoma Uwazurike.
All right. Gab, you're the man. So yeah, there we go. So yeah. I actually truly, I'm with I think the matriculation of the linebacking core in the Broncos defense. I mean, I'm really intrigued to see what this particular set of guys are going to do going forward. Like I said, you got your edge rush set, the interior D line is set. It's just a matter of what Browning and I believe help me out with the other linebacker who's losing it right now. The inside linebacker.
Jewel?
Yes, Jewel, yes.
And then we have Griffith.
Yes.
So
yes.
Griffith was the other guy that was so at the very back end of last season for the Broncos, it was Browning and Griffith.
Okay. Yeah, so intrigued to see their matriculation and their growth from year 1 to year 2 in the system or in the organization, I should say. Overall, and then the safeties are solid. I mean, definitely have no issues with safety. Justin Simmons is one of my favorite players on your defense, so I'm definitely there for him. And Patrick Surtain, you just got that other outside corner and maybe slot corner position you maybe need to shore up. But outside of that, I mean, pretty solid draft. Definitely pretty solid draft, and you have a lot of depth there up front in your front seven as well. So that's good news.
Yeah, I mean,
okay. No, I have to. I am very sorry when I jump in. It's because it needs to be said first off, okay, and only because I wasn't able, because you guys jumped. By the way, I'm Captain Jack for those that don't know, and I like to be the old man, and the old "get off my lawn" type of thing, So that's the thing. When you talk about matriculation, you are the wrong team. Remember, it has to be a Kansas City fan that talks about matriculation, because all that's all Lynn Dawson saying, we matriculate the ball down the field.
Got it.
You've got to ask KC if you are allowed to say that word with permission. Second thing is that, and I was looking at you, Coach D, when I saw the Holy Roller, I was like, oh yeah, boy, there's something I can see, for my fans of the Chargers there. So when I was looking, but I was like, no, I couldn't see your facial expression on that. But I was just thinking about it as well. Unfortunately, we don't have a signature play against the Donkeys, other than I think maybe Ronald Curry getting that spike football that high pitch from Gannon in the snow game and grabbing it, kind of like when Ronald was playing over at basketball at North Carolina for the touchdown there. That's on the thing, so we'll figure that one out as well. But I did want to say those things, and damn it, I had another thing. This is Captain Jack. I know. Like I said, I have so many things in mind, and then I can't get them all out there, and apologies for that. But again, sorry, Coach D. But when you say you said matriculation 3 times.
I'm sorry.
I was just like, may Len Dawson rest in peace, was on that. I know he's looking down at you.
Yeah. I felt his presence.
Exactly. But no, that's all I got for that. But no, I said, now I remembered. How many friggin' picks did you have in the draft, man? My God, you say, well, this pick and then that pick, and I could have had a corned beef sandwich and rye and a seltzer. I would have went to New York and got it, and you still would have been going through your draft picks on that one. That's why I was asking, man. My goodness.
Yeah, I think the Raiders were actually the only ones that had a limited amount of picks in the draft. I think all other 3 teams had a plentiful amount of picks. I think the Chargers had 10. Actually, we traded a couple at the end, so we ended up with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We had 8 picks.
Okay,
8 picks in the draft.
That's a lot.
We ended up with 9, but that was through a combination of trade ups and trade downs and whatnot. We traded away the first and second for Russell Wilson. And we had a second round pick this year, which is what we were able to get Nick Mondino with. So I think that was a good pickup. My only concern with Nick is just that he's, like you said, he's a good speed rusher. And I think he just needs to work on developing his other tools in his tool belt, including, being able to both absorb and shed contact and that kind of stuff. Just add to his arsenal. Von Miller was a speed guy at first, and he kind of really developed in some of his other moves. Although he had more shift, I think, than Bonito did coming out, and I think could also get a little lower, if I'm not mistaken, than Nick can as well. But overall, I just think that if the tools can be developed and really honed in, I think he can turn into a really good player. But I do think it will take him some time, just because I think he's coming in needing more work than, say, someone like Von Miller did right out the gate, where, that's why Miller, I think, was a second pick in that draft, if I'm not mistaken. And frankly, deservingly so. I mean, he's already on track to, gold jacket, I think, is a pretty much guarantee at this point.
He needs a gold jacket just based on the fact that he parlayed $200 million contracts in his career. That's unprecedented. Unprecedented. It's unprecedented. But I would say that by Bradley Chubb being in the building, who's a bona fide power rusher, if Benito can learn from him a little bit of speed to power combination of moves, learning from Bradley Chubb, then that would be a good. There's another word that's going to be a cringeworthy word right now: mentorship. People have been buzzing about mentorship on the internet this last couple of days because of Ryan Tannehill's comment. So if Benito can get some mentorship from Bradley Chubb in his power rush game, then that would definitely aid to his toolbox and his skill set, which will make him an even more lethal pass rusher.
Captain, I don't know if you saw, but
I saw the comment.
You saw the comment. Yeah. And I only say that because you were traveling. So I think, for those of you who don't know, Captain Jack was in fact at the draft and has recently arrived via a jet plane, and I'm sure there's a song in there somewhere. And so he just got back, so we need to give him a little bit of slack because it's possible you wouldn't have heard all of the NFL news in the en route, but the Broncos are all too familiar with Tannehill's comment. We had Joe Flacco make that exact same comment when Locke was here.
Oh wow! Okay.
It was brutal, and it really. It really rubbed everybody the wrong way because that's just football is the ultimate team sport, and making a comment like that just simply shows that you are certainly not a team player. And I think it ultimately shows why Flacco fizzled out after he kind of had that one little run and really hasn't done much since, because it clearly shows he's just not that team guy or a team first guy. And then you have to start wondering if you're going to see a similar result to Tannehill. So, Jack, what are your thoughts on when a player makes a comment like that, especially publicly?
Well, and by the way, I did pull up our list, so I know you guys were schwitzing for time, so I can get my list up here. So I do got all of that.
Okay.
The one thing I can say about it is you don't have to say it. You can yeah, exactly. I agree with Johnny. That I agree with you on, Johnny. That's horrible. That's terrible. That's just terrible. Talking about that. Oh, terrible. There's my Charles as well. But what you can think it, and maybe you can say it to him on the side. But you are really never. It's kind of like that unspoken rule that Coach Kerr was talking about with that hard foul in the game last night. It's a broken rule, okay, or it's an unspoken rule. You don't say, "Hey, I'm not here to be his mentor." Okay, you can have that because the same thing was said. Brett Favre said the same thing about Aaron Rodgers years ago, and people forget that. I'm not here to mentor him, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of times it is the quarterbacks, because they are the prima donnas of the organizations, that usually are the ones that are caught saying it. I mean, again, you can think it, but it's unspoken that you shouldn't say it out loud because that puts you on the hot seat as well. And so there's my long thought on that.
That's very true. That's very true. And I think that people don't realize this as well. If you're older than somebody, just by normal experience, you're going to be a mentor to that person, good or bad.
Exactly.
Good or bad.
Yeah.
Either you're going to teach me how to do things the right way, or you're going to teach me how to do things the wrong way, and I can learn not to do those things in your place. So regardless of what you do, physically, what you say to him directly, you're going to be a mentor to him, either positively or negatively. Exactly. So you have to look at it from that perspective. So, Ryan Tannehill is Malik Willis is going to see everything Tannehill does on a day-to-day basis, his work ethic, his practice habits, how he reads film, all that stuff. So whether he benefits from it or he knows the pitfalls that Ryan Tannehill is facing, can't seem to get over the hump in the playoffs with, he can learn that from him as well. Say, I need to do this a different way because he clearly doesn't have a clue. It could be any of those things. But regardless of that, if you're older than the person, they're looking at you whether you believe it or not. So they see what you do and what you don't do and what's good and bad and what I can learn from you as being a pro athlete, period.
Actually, one of the things is that you might not have said, and again, okay, for all those here, I'm a Navy Chief Petty Officer retired, okay? And when I was going up through the ranks, I learned the things that I wanted to do to emulate to be a Navy Chief Petty Officer. And I won't say any names here, but there was certain E7s, which in the Navy is a slam. That's like calling, like saying your mama, in such a way. If you don't call him a chief, you call him an E7. There are people that are wearing the rank of Chief Petty Officer, but we don't consider them chiefs because of what they bring to the table. So what you emulate or what you take from the people, the examples, like you said, the bad examples or the good examples, you are in fact mentoring the people to teach people what to do and what not to do. I want to do this like this guy does it because it works for him and I see that he gets a lot out of it. But because he also does this, I definitely want to make sure I never do that. And Broncos Breakdown, thank you as well, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you all for your positives on that. I appreciate that as well.
Absolutely.
So, last but not least, or not second to last, I wanted to kind of go over our collective drafts in terms of who we didn't like, who we picked up.
Okay.
I think
My list. You didn't ask me about my list yet. I mean,
I thought you'd already spoke about it.
No, I said I had to pull it up. Okay.
Oh.
See, you are so ingrained. You ain't Coach D. You Richie Rich and Coach D. Coach D and Richie Rich. Got that Yeah, the hell with what the Raiders drafted. Okay, I know we only had 6 picks, actually 5. But
I was gonna say I think you only had 5.
We there you go. We parlayed them into 6 picks. So without further ado, okay, let's go over who the Raiders picked up. Okay. In the first round and the second round, they got Tay Adams. Okay.
Respect.
And that needed to be said because you were talking about how y'all picked up Russell Wilson for your 1 and 2. When you pick up arguably the best receiver in football, and I did say arguably because I had to actually be brought in on that. I said, yeah, he's a top 5 receiver, but the more I know and the more I know, I said, yeah, he's definitely top 1 to 2. Top 1 to 2, okay, in football. And okay, a little overpaid, but we got him in the draft. And Coach D was talking about, by the way, his name is 50 Who. It's not that K-Mac person that you're talking about. That is 50 Who.
Oh, that's what Raiders say in Raiders chats.
That's what I say. It's 50 Who. It's not that person. It's 50 Who. So I'm just letting you know there, Coach D. And I'm going to actually say that because I think you kind of overpaid on that second round pick for 50 Who.
You think?
Yeah, I think.
If that translates into 10 sacks a year, I'm good.
We'll go back to that once you start going back on all those picks. But again, so we got our first and second. Our third round pick, who we also parlayed into getting an extra pick because Tennessee jumped up and picked up Malik Willis with our pick, and we dropped down 4, and we got one of the best offensive linemen in the draft who had like a second round grade.
Yes, he did.
Second round grade with Dylan Parham, who is probably projected that he's going to be our starting center. They're looking at him to be the center in the next year or two. So he might actually, and you know what? He actually might start this year because, again, I saw the snide comment, which offensive line are you going to have to keep Carr upright? Okay, I like what we did with the fact that Parham is there. Okay, and we'll talk about other things as well at a later time about the team. You did talk about you picking up Spiller in the 4th round, okay? I don't like this grade. The guy gave us a grade of C for Zamir White, and I don't know who this guy is talking about, but everybody I spoke to said that Zamir White, a.k.a. Zeus, was probably one of the best 1 to 2 running backs available this draft, okay? And being an SEC guy, I know what White can bring, providing he stays healthy. And he has an ACL on each leg, but those were a couple of years ago. And I saw him run roughshod over the SEC. He is a strong back. He always goes forward with the ball. You never see him get cut for. If he gets cut for a loss, he's still going to fall forward. It's instead of a 3-yard loss, it's going to be a 2-yard loss, and that's if you catch him in the backfield. With the 4th round, Neil Farrell was also a round 4 pick. They were a little chintzy on this. It gave him a B grade. Him as well as Butler, who was in the next round, A+ grade for him, and I like that as well. Actually, the 5th round pick of Butler, these two bulk guys at defensive tackle, and we were needing bulk. Our edge rush is good to go. Our edge rush is good to go. Some guys by the name of Crosby and the what is it? The Russell Wilson killer in the name of Chandler Jones.
That's what we're calling him.
No, he is. You and I know Richie Riche knows this. Russell Wilson's kryptonite. If Russell Wilson was Superman, his kryptonite is Chandler Jones. I think Chandler Jones has sacked Russell Wilson more than anybody in the NFL, and that's true.
Yeah. I would have guessed Aaron Donald, but I'll take it.
Okay. But again, we picked up Farrell and Butler in the rounds 4 and 5 to bulk up. One is going to be a nose type of guy, and one's going to be a 3 tech. And that is, we did get younger, faster, stronger in that. Okay, so again, we're good. We're good on the outside rush. And also, don't forget about Malcolm Kuntz from last year. I think he's going to be doing some time this year as well. In round 7, and you're talking about the best. I gotta split my best between Dylan Parham and this next guy, Thayer Mumford, who played for and I can't stand when they say that. I can't stand when they say that, but I got to say it. The Ohio State University. Projected. Last year he played as a guard, but he was like all Big Ten at tackle. So the fact that he was sitting on the board with a second, I think he had like a second round grade, maybe like even a top 3, and we picked him up in the 7th round. You were talking about how you got a second round guy in the 5th. I'll take a guy who has a second round grade in the 7th and still on the board, and could be the guy who plays that right tackle position sooner rather than later. Okay, and then. This was and people call this a throwaway, and even the guy who did this is smoking something. Britton Brown out of UCLA, the running back, gave him a D grade. Okay, maybe we could have picked up a quarterback here, but we did in fact pick up a quarterback in UDFA, and we can talk about that if we get to that as well. But Brown does exhibit characteristics. Maybe he'll be on the practice squad this year. He does have return capabilities, so. Unless Tyron Johnson, who I know Coach D knows about, isn't returning this year, maybe it's going to be Britton Brown. So it's not a throwaway pick. So the Raiders did very well with the 6 picks that they had. They only had 5, but moving back for the Tennessee picking up Malik Willis, we got that extra pick.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely like the 2 interior D linemen that you picked up. I had them as sleepers for the Chargers to pick up as run defense depth. I definitely like Neil Farrell Jr. From LSU. He's definitely a good road grading run stopper. And Matthew Butler was slated by a lot of people as being a very high rated steal in later rounds as well. So you definitely need to show up the interior linemen. Like you said, the edge rush is set. Chandler and Max, they're set. They're good to go. So you need to show up that interior line to keep those big hog mollies off the linebackers, obviously. So you definitely needed that, especially in that 4-3 defense. You got to have 2 studs in the middle. So
wait a second. I got to jump on you there, Coach D. We're not playing the 4-3.
Really?
Yeah. See, a lot of the Raiders have played 4-3 forever, but in Coach Graham's defense, kind of like what Richie knows with Fangio, it's a 3-4-4-3, 5-2.
A hybrid.
Whatever, it's a hybrid. Not only does it go by series, it goes by downs. I mean, you can be in a 3-4-1 in first down, and maybe even a 4-3 in second. And he's going to throw things at you. And that's one thing I like about Coach Graham. The Raiders are no longer playing that 4-3, which is one of the reasons why we got rid of Ngakoue, sent him off to the Colts to pick up Rock Ya-Sin, because Ngakoue would not have thrived in Graham's defense.
Good point. There's definitely some knowledge that I was not aware of, and I appreciate that. I was not aware of that.
I'll give you the Jewish guy. Aha! Aha!
I like that. I like that. Yeah. So, and I actually love hybrid defenses. I ran quite a bit of that in my coaching career. So, I definitely was appreciative of those particular aspects and nuances of defenses. It gives you more flexibility and makes you match up better against more teams. So definitely can appreciate that. So yeah, only thing I didn't like the fact that they didn't try to address more of the secondary need. There's some corners out there they could have drafted. So you definitely need some help in the secondary. But outside of that, I think it was a pretty solid move defensively. I think the O-line is still needed for some love outside of Parham and the secondaries, especially the corners need love. But outside of that, a pretty solid draft. I think the division is going to be a prison fight. Like I said before, it's not going to be easy. If you come out of the division on top, you earned it, and you're going to be battle tested.
That's right.
I'm not sure I necessarily personally look at Crosby as an edge per se. I mean, he's certainly a pass rusher, and I think that anyone that says otherwise is just wrong. but I mean, we'll start there. And he's easily that stud player that the Raiders have on their D line. And again, even as an opponent in the AFC West, you have to give just heaps of praise and credit where it is due with regards to Max Crosby. However, I just don't see him as an edge per se. I see him as more of that kind of rushing DN style kind of player because he's kind of too big or bigger rather for an outside linebacker per se. Someone like he even seems larger, bigger than a guy like Mac. Now maybe I'm wrong and I have to look at the weight and height and stuff and compare, but he seems like he's bigger than guys like that, and that's why I see him as more kind of a rushing D end, almost like what you saw from Malik Jackson almost on the Denver Broncos when he was here. I see kind of those two as similar but different at the same time, just in terms of size, weight, kind of rush, that sort of thing. Just if I were to kind of equate something that I'm more familiar with, which is obviously the Broncos roster, I kind of see some parallels in terms of although I think that Max is getting better pressures and more frequent pressures than Jackson did, but I still think that I see some similarities there. But moving on to what you were saying with your picks there, Jack, I was looking at or hearing your tone rather in what you were saying. You weren't overly confident in that last pick. So would it be fair to say that while you're not down on that sixth pick of that running back that you think has some returnability, that it would be probably a fair comment to say that even those that might be, say, harsher about the pick than you are, that was probably your worst pick just because you had other options that could have come in instead?
Yeah, I would admit that. And
Yeah.
while you guys hear my phone, because it's supposed to be off, so apologies. Shut up! There you go. Okay, hopefully
Stay off my lawn doesn't work with cell phones. It's technology. They just laugh.
Yeah. I actually have something called a landline.
Oh,
okay.
Landline. I do have the cell phone here, though.
Got it.
But yeah. Anyway, I would say of all of those picks, like I said, the fact that we picked up, like I said, probably one of the two best backs in the draft. Okay. Might have been a throwaway. I don't know. At that point in time, by the way, I was there at the time. I was there on Saturday for that pick. Hey, Crew Joe, how you doing there, shipmate? I would have probably looked around and maybe there was a corner there. Maybe is, a safety that was there. Cause we do need some, help in the secondary, but you know what? I'm going to give Dave Ziegler a pass. When you pop it out of the park, and I really think for his very first draft, being handicapped with having 5, then he parlayed into 6 picks, what he did with those picks, I'm going to say, actually some of the draft pundits are saying very, very good participation, good overall grade. But see, can we talk about that real quick? Why is it that everybody wants to give an immediate draft grade and none of these players have played a single down in the NFL and people are already grading the draft?
It's reactionary. I mean, everybody wants to know how people feel about the picks that you got at the pick that you got him at. They want to know exactly how they feel about where he was drafted and how he can project. It's all about projection. They want to see how he projects into being a solid pro. But the truth of the matter is that we're never going to know exactly how these guys are actually going to be on the field until 2 or 3 years from now. Some guys might hit right away, but the 2 to 3 year mark is when you really will know exactly what you have in this particular player. So you truly don't know. But again, it's for clickbait, it's for shock value, it's for media attention in certain regards. So you got to look at it from that perspective. So that's really all it's about. I gave grades just based upon the fact that I know my viewers like to see it. They want to know exactly how I felt about this particular pick and what I grade him out as and this, that, and the third. So, it's for people to really, I guess you could say, overanalyze, over-evaluate the competition.
I agree.
And the other thing of looking at this is like, okay, so let's say you guys went out and you drafted 6 defensive ends. How would you grade or rank your draft?
Well, first off, I'm not Matt Millen, and I don't get a wide receiver in the first round 3 years in a row.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's my point, right? Is there? I think it's fair to grade these drafts because you're trying to project what you believe these particular picks can do within your system for your team, and I think that's important. But I absolutely agree with you. Is that the ultimate point is they haven't even seen a football field yet, so all you're doing is projecting.
Right.
And that's fair game as far as I'm concerned. And you're certainly not getting any disagreements from me there at all. At the same time, I think that certain guys are going to fit certain schemes. And I also think that as the couch GMs / scouts that we all like to pretend to be, that I think it's a fun exercise. And it also is a bit of a growth exercise as you're trying to assess what you're even doing right now, which is to say, hey, I liked this guy in the draft because I thought he was a good fit for our team. Did he go to a system that is similar to what my team runs, and did he succeed? And if he did, then it looks like I am likely seeing the right things in certain players that I believe my team should do. And then on the flip side, if you look at some of the picks that your team picked up this year and are just absolutely shaking your head and wanting to go wring the neck of your GM, and you turn out to be right because they don't fit your system, or the things that you thought that they weren't capable of doing, they didn't do, then I think that also goes to your own credibility, or at least course correction, some of your own bias that you have coming in to try to make yourself better as you analyze and look at new players.
Yeah. I got you. And again, one second there, Coach. I apologize, sir. I was listening to a Cal Patty fan today was talking about their draft, and they were even lamenting he went together with another Cal Patty fan, and they're like, "What in the hell did we do?" Okay, so I get it. I mean, and I get it where you could kind of like be very circumspect about your draft, but I look at it this way: I'm very happy with the fact that we addressed the inside pass rush, we addressed the offensive line, and we got one of the best running backs in football. Okay, maybe we got an extra running back there, but I'm very happy with the coverage of the draft, the players that we got, and how we are going to utilize them.
Yeah, I think it was a very intelligent draft. Had to be had by a lot of teams, especially in this division. And you had to be, because you have to be competitive. I mean, this division is going to be a grind. It's not going to be easy. Those 6 games that we play against each other are all going to be knockdown, drag out, unless somebody takes some serious injuries, and we don't want that. We want to see good football. So, but on the lighter side of things, I think that when you come down to grades, I mean, we need things to do right now. It's May now. We get football doesn't come on until August, September timeframe. So we need something to do. So draft grades are fun in a sense because people want to know how we think they're going to project out to actual pros. They were good college kids, but are they going to project out to be pros? And again, one quick thing to you, Cap. I was reading a tweet earlier by Brett Coleman, right? He said that he looked at the draft that I think was this. I believe this is Mayock's first draft. Yeah, Cleveland Farrell, Josh Jacobs, and John Abraham in the first round, who all did get their 5th-year options picked up. So he said, by osmosis, did the Chargers win the Khalil Mack trade? Because that's what he was traded for. All those picks you had in the draft. Get the Cleveland Farrell, Jonathan Abraham, and Josh Jacobs. Nobody had their 5th-year option picked up. And the Chargers end up with Khalil Mack at the end of all that. So did we win that actual trade?
If you go by what the Bears did, okay, if you go by what the Bears did, and this is what I was alluding to earlier with 50 who being your 2nd round pick.
Right.
Okay. And again, I have his name correct. It's 50 who. Okay.
Uh-huh.
The picks that we picked up for Mac, okay, I actually think that we hit Pater with Jacobs, okay. Farrell,
That's fair.
Farrell was an overshoot because of the system in Clemson. He wasn't a bad pick. He was just maybe and it's not his fault he was picked at 4. It's
Mhm.
not his fault he was picked at 4. And they projected him to be a little bit more of a stud. But I think that Farrell, you look at that Clemson defensive line that he was with, all of those picks were like they were all first round picks, and maybe one was a second or a third. Okay.
Mhm.
And they all were good in the NFL. Abram, okay, if the kid could stay healthy and learn how to pass defense, great. You know, and it's Abram, by the way. Everybody calls him Abraham as well, but no, it's Abram. But yeah, he gets injured, and oh, by the way, what we got another pick for Pooper Scooper the next round, okay, and it was Damon Arnett. So yeah, he sucks. He sucks. He sucks. Actually, you have to improve to suck. They didn't do well.
Dang.
Do well with picks. But remember, that was an older organization, and I
It
think
was. It was.
first time in forever, and I'm saying this as a forever Raider fan, the first time in forever that the Raider organization has football minds that actually know what the hell they are doing, and they are just going to use and ascend. And that's why I said it's not just the draft, but when the kids that we're looking up at the unrestricted free agents, I mean, you got Troy Polamalu's nephew as an unrestricted free agent, which the Raiders picked up. I'm happy with that. You know, they picked up a developmental quarterback. They got a couple tight ends. One's not on this list, but the other kid from Texas Tech that they've invited to the minicamp is kind of like a Darren Waller light plus guy. And, you know, Trey Turner out of Virginia Tech as a wide receiver, and everybody's bitching whether the Raiders didn't get any wide receivers, but they picked up Trey Turner. So it's not just the draft, it's how well you do after the draft. And I think that the Raider organization is now in a better light and a better understanding of how to do things effectively.
I think this ties in a little bit to just the draft in general. But so the Broncos are now in their second year with general manager George Payton, and the Raiders are now in the first year with their new regime with Ziegler and McDaniels as GM and head coach respectively. So I'm actually very curious to hear your take just in general on both how they have both handled themselves. And I think this is something. This is one of the benefits of having a podcast with all with the AFC West represented. Here is what all of these fans. We're all football fans here, and we're all collectively interested to see what the other team is kind of done, and how we're doing, that kind of stuff. How do you feel that they have done? And moreover, looking at, and I agree with you, by the way, in your previous take, he had some limits put on him as a result of trading for Adams, right?
Yes.
So how do you feel he did in his first draft? But more importantly, I think what I would like to know your take on, and what I think that those hopefully viewing are also interested in, is what were the biggest differences that you noticed in his draft style compared to Gruden and Mayock, although knowing that Gruden did have that 51% say in the draft compared to Mayock?
Well, I would say that in John Gruden's era, he would. I mean, you couldn't get a first round pick from John Gruden. It'd be like stealing a sugar daddy from a baby with diabetes. Okay, it ain't happening. Okay. By the way, sugar daddies are those caramel things, folks. If they still have them, I'm not even sure if they still do. But they hoarded those picks. Okay, whereas the Ziegler McDaniel regime knew what they needed to get for Tay Adams, and with the run on wide receivers both being traded and being evaluated and being signed to long terms, and with the run that they had on wide receivers in the first round, you could see that having that go-to wide receiver is worth it. Okay, so they got the best receiver in football who has a good rapport with our quarterback already, I'll take that.
I would say that's an understatement. They're best friends. I mean, it's hard. It's very few times in life that you get to work and play football with your best friend.
Oh, I'm glad that Avatar says that they still have sugar daddies in Denver. Okay.
Nice.
That's what they call priorities right there.
Indeed.
So,
Indeed.
so I think that's a good observation, just in terms of, I'm personally fascinated by it. Like, what I'm personally interested right now for the Broncos, because we've already seen Peyton and how he's reserved. He is keeps all of his picks and all of his decision-making processes very close to the chest. You're not going to see it announced in the general public. And as opponents of the Broncos, you must have noted the difference between the two almost immediately, because all of the Broncos picks under Elway as the GM were almost projected into the media weeks and days in advance. And all of a sudden under Peyton, he literally pulls off the trade for Russell Wilson, and everyone's saying, why didn't we hear about that? And that is, I mean, and when you have a guy like of Russell Wilson's caliber in the NFL, and him getting traded and not a single peep comes out of either organization, that just shows a level of professionalism that, I mean, I'm not trying to say Elway was unprofessional. I'm just simply saying that there's a degree of professionalism there that is at a very, very high standard, because that it is in everyone's best interest to just basically sit down and shut up.
Yeah. I think our government could take a page out of the Denver Broncos book.
I agree.
I'm just saying. But yeah, I definitely like that they kept that very close to the vest, very G14 classified when it came down to the idea of him being traded. You didn't hear about it until the paper was completely signed. Yes, that's the kudos to them for definitely keep that under wraps.
And Coach, I was sorry, same thing as well. Gruden and Mayock would project their picks during the whole regime, so you knew who the Raiders were looking at. You knew who they wanted, and so we couldn't get a trade out of the Raiders because they already we're going to go for this guy or whatnot. You knew exactly if you wanted to go ahead of them in order to pick up that guy. You knew you had to get ahead of them, or if you knew that your guy was still going to be there after the Raiders, you didn't have to. Okay. So, yeah, you didn't need to be G14 classified, in order to do this. But McDaniels and Ziegler played it close to the vest. You know that the Raiders were interested in a lot of people, but they went out and they got a good class, and nobody really know. I think the only people that I had associated with the Raiders, Parm was associated with the Raiders, and that's why they were kind of sweating it that he was still going to be there at 90 when they went back 4, okay? But everyone else, I never heard Zamir White's name.
Right.
Farrell and Butler, yeah, I think they came in for some visits, but Mumford or Brown, no.
Yeah.
Right, and that's very similar to what the Broncos have been recently under George Payton, which is picks are held close to the vest. They are not projected. You don't know the types of people or the players that he is interested in, and the Chargers have just not had that projection through the media, I think, as of late, where you kind of know that information up front, maybe in really tight circles, but I think you have to really go looking for it, because I do go looking for it, and I'm still not finding some of that information. So I think they've always had that type of professionalism within the organization. I did want to backtrack just a little bit to the draft, just from the Broncos perspective, and then I'll throw it over to both you, Captain, and Coach. Although, Captain, we kind of covered your pick already, where you kind of basically hinted at that last pick in the 7th round, and that's our least favorite pick from our team. So I think my personal least favorite pick for the Denver Broncos in this year's draft was the very last pick of the draft. And I realize that many will see that as a bit of a cop-out. That's really not my intention as I analyze this. I'm simply looking at the other two players that are now ahead of this particular gentleman that we drafted in the 7th round. That was Fionn Hicks. And he is projected to be that slot cornerback position. And right now in the Denver Broncos roster, we already have K1 Williams, who is slated to be our starter in that particular spot. And we have a lesser known guy that I think a lot of people may recognize from the Broncos, and that was Essang Bassi, who started off as an undrafted free agent rookie for the Denver Broncos and then worked his way into a starting role in the Fangio defense. And he was looking to be really good in the slot position before he ended up tearing his ACL. And that was the year I think the Broncos had something like 7 to 10 ACL injuries on our team, which is just ridiculous. So in terms of my pick, I had Fionn Hicks, and that's just simply because I don't think he's going to see the field, because I think Essang Bassi and K1 Williams are likely going to win out ahead of him. But Coach, what about you? Where do you think your team and the Chargers had their weak spot in the draft?
If I had to choose, I mean, because I see some nuance and skill set. I guess you can say ideas with where they were thinking when they picked these guys. But the two corners they drafted, Jasir Taylor and Dean Leonard. Now, I understand the Dean Leonard more so because he's a really fast and physical corner. He's taller. Jasir's a little bit on the smaller side from Wake Forest. So if I had to say that I was scratching my head a little bit at those picks, especially when I realized that there were Bo Melton and a couple other receivers were still on the board. I would have went receiver one with one of those picks and picked the corner with the other. So I would have did that. And I don't have a clue about Xander. It's funny that when our Chargers fans in the chat saying that he called him Bloodbath Horvath. I hadn't heard that just now. But I don't have any I guess you can say background on him yet. But again, we're set at fullback with Gabe Neighbor. So, and again, we don't utilize a lot of fullback sets. We run a lot of single back and a lot of what they call 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers and 1 running back. So, the idea of having 2 fullbacks in camp was kind of a head scratcher when you had other options on the board at 7. But yet again, I think that it's one of those things where if you had options at wide receiver and didn't take them, you took 2 corners. They must see something in these guys. I'm just curious about what that is.
You're talking about the fullback you guys drafted in the second to last round or something, correct?
The very last pick we had, Xander Horvath.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So if that's the fullback, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was a slash player, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think he played a little bit of tight end, a little bit of running back. Actually, he had 1,000 yards in one season when he played for them in Purdue. But yeah, like I said, I hadn't heard of him until now.
So yeah. I actually see him being a bit of a valuable pick, really. You've got a guy that's shown that he can be a fullback, a tight end. Now, I see DZ here. I'm Canadian, guys. I pronounce it different. And
Zed is dead, baby. Zed is dead.
Sure, whatever. That's called the Queen's English. He plays fullback, tight end, and running back. Now, he does play running back, but he doesn't really play running back particularly well. His two main spots are kind of that H-back tight end style role and a fullback role. And if I have to be honest, there's a lot of value in a guy that can play that particular position. And I hate to bring up the poison pill when it comes to that spot in the NFL, but I mean, you think and you look back at what New England did with a guy like Aaron Hernandez, who played that role probably the best we've ever seen a guy play it in a very long time. I think that's fair to.
Let's hope it doesn't end like that situation ended. But I'm with you in the comparison.
No. I'm talking football style, right? I'm not talking personal off the field nonsense. I'm talking football style, and when you see what that type of a player can do for a team, that's game changing.
It could be.
And so if used the right way, you have some real potential there. Now, I'm not saying he's going to turn into Aaron Hernandez in terms of both off the field or on field. However, with that type of potential, I think that is a better pick than I think you're personally giving it credit for. Now, can he turn into a starter slash type player that's playing like special teams, offense, all those different units? Because that's what you need a guy like that to do. But either way, I actually think he's better than I think that you maybe project him to be, just because of that versatility.
Yeah, I think, like I said, my head scratcher was one of the corners when it could have been an option of taking a receiver. You could have took a corner and a receiver instead of taking 2 corners. That was my thought, especially if you had the idea of signing Bryce Callahan in free agency after the draft. If that was your plan, I would have took a receiver in the corner. So that was my head scratcher. Again, I'm waiting and seeing on Xander's pick yet. I'm not giving him a pass or fail grade yet. I'm just waiting to see because I haven't looked at him and seen him on film to see what he did in college. But again, to your guys' point, he is a hybrid. He does do multiple things. So you can utilize him in different sets and multiple spots and move him all around the field and be, if nothing else, a legit blocking option for you to get Spiller and Eckler in open space and get better yardage and get better production in your run game.
He may also be able to be the distraction player.
Yeah.
So if they use him just enough to make teams have to look his way just because he's on the field, that can often be enough just to make a difference with a player. We are coming close to time, guys, but I did want to get a quick, maybe rapid fire for us on kind of what we believe our team left on the table.
Okay.
So what position group on our team do we feel our team didn't either draft to correct or fix, or didn't draft well enough to fix? Coach, maybe I'll throw it over to you to start.
Yeah, like I said, I would say wide receiver. Because like I said, there were still some options. We didn't get a top-end receiver like we wanted to in 17, which is why we went with Zion Johnson, an interior lineman. So I think a speedy receiver is what we didn't go after, even in the later rounds. Like I said, Bo Melton and a few other guys were on the docket to be drafted late in later rounds, and they went after our picks, and we just didn't pull the trigger on them. So I would say that or edge rusher, but it's adapted edge rusher would be the ones that I would say we kind of missed on.
Captain?
Well, considering that the Raiders only had the 5, which they parlayed into 6 picks, there's not a lot you can do with that. So I'm going to have to expound upon that, is that what they did not do in the draft and the undrafted free agents pickups, they still are very light in the secondary. I don't see anybody in the secondary, corner or safety, that they picked up either in the draft or in undrafted free agency. Now, unless they have a plan of action for post June 1st, because we got $25 million to do that, pardon me, then they didn't do that. They did pick up some linebackers in UDFAs, Butler, another Butler, not the Butler that was drafted, but Darian Butler and Zach Van Valkenburg. So they picked them up as undrafted free agents. So they still need to pick up some kids in the secondary. So we'll see what happens there. That's the only thing that they were light on, in my estimation.
Okay.
I agree with both of your takes on both of your teams, kind of call it failings, if you will, in terms of either not picking them up in the draft or even not addressing it in both combined free agency leading into the draft and also even UDFAs. And this year in particular, some of the UDFAs that made it all the way through, there are some incredible talent that made it undrafted, largely because of some injuries that kind of kept them off the field and those sorts of things. I'm just going to simply call out one of the guys from the Broncos, and that's Chris Allen. I actually expect him to make the 53, in my opinion. I think he'll probably fill at the back end of our edge kind of group on our team. But there is just so much depth in this particular draft simply because there wasn't a lot of clumping at the top that you normally get in most draft classes, where you get like 1 or 2 guys that kind of make up that top tier, and then everyone else just kind of falls below them. This year's draft, there's a huge grouping that was all in that whole middle section, which is very, very rare to have. And so you just end up with some great depth that makes it all the way in through the UDFAs. And those are the types of guys that hit. So many of these guys that you see making the Hall of Fame end up having come from that UDFA or that back end round. And I mean, for all we know, some of these, that fullback tight end guy that you're referring to there,
he might be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, who knows? You never know, right? And
right.
I'm being serious. Like, you truly never know with some of these players. So it really can be a shocker. So for the Denver Broncos, I personally feel that what we left on the board in this particular draft is we have an older quarterback in Russell Wilson. He's not old, but he's certainly aging. And in my opinion, he really does need a competent right tackle. Now, we did get a great pickup at right tackle that we brought in from Green Bay. I think that he will make a great tackle for us, but he is only on a 1-year deal. We also have Calvin Anderson, who we brought back on a 1-year deal. And then we have a few kind of mixed bag guys in that kind of back end depth. My concern is longer term and development for longer term. And I feel that the one position that we left out in this particular draft was in fact the right tackle position. And because the Broncos have really struggled in that spot, dare I say, since we had Orlando Franklin on the roster.
Oh, wow. You went back on that one.
Way back.
Way back on that one.
Yeah. Now, Orlando Franklin and I actually were born in the same area of the GTA.
Okay.
He's from Scarborough, Ontario, which is where I was born, which is right in the outskirts there of Toronto. But he was from there. And funny story, he was originally thrown on the ice for hockey, and then he just got too big to fit in skates and play properly. So they ended up, he said, I'm out, I'm done.
Right. There you go.
So, and Franklin's a great dude. Anyways, he was really the last right tackle, like true right tackle that we had that could kind of play that movement role and then moving guys. And then we've had this like just constant rotation of guys at the right tackle spot ever since.
True indeed. It's a quick question that Johnny had put in the chat. This should be real quick. That he wants to know from each of us who we think our sleeper pick was in the draft.
Ooh, I like that. I like that, Johnny. Nice pick. Captain, do you want to maybe go first?
Yeah, actually, and Coach D, thank you, sir, because I was going to say that we definitely didn't address that. I'm actually going to say Thayer Munford, the kid in the 7th round that played at again, I can't stand when they say that, Ohio State University.
Right.
Because, again, you were talking about that the Broncos didn't address right tackle. The Raiders really didn't do that this year in free agency at all. Okay, yeah, they picked up people, the revolving door that is Parker, picking up Illuminor, which might be a good pickup because he does play in that offensive line system. Cable couldn't teach him anything, but still, it's a big question mark. I think Munford in that 7th round, who has played tackle in the Big Ten, I think that might be the sleeper pick. Again, people can say, Farrell and Butler, they're going to be fine. Parham's going to be fine. But I think that Munford is the sleeper pick of this draft.
I like it. All right. Well, my pick is definitely Jamari Saleri from Georgia. I mean, there's no way you get a 2nd round outgraded out tackle in the 6th round. It just doesn't happen. So, and that was actually a bonus pick for us because we weren't expecting to go offensive line at that pick, but it was so out there for us to do. We just had to do it. So he's my pick for it because I think he's going to be an added bonus to our interior O-line. I guarantee he makes the roster. He's probably going to start, in my opinion.
I'm struggling with this one because I'm torn between two guys, and they were picked both in the 5th round. I'm going to have to just mention them both because I think one of them is going to be short-term, but one of them I think is going to be a longer-term success, in my opinion. And I'm going to go with Montreal Washington wide receiver, who is slated to likely be the Denver Broncos punt return and kick return guy. We let go of Deontay Spencer and brought in Washington likely to fill that role. Now, we do have a UDFA that's likely going to challenge him for that spot, but I think in terms of draft, he is certainly a sleeper. That the fact that he made it all the way to the 5th round with those types of skill sets, I think I think is going to show to be a good pickup by Peyton. But the longer term pick that I think is going to kind of go further for us and may actually surprise some people even this season is Luke Wattenberg, offensive line, who's slated to be a guard / center. And Denver Broncos, as you all may know, from my perspective, is the offensive center position is the biggest need on the Denver Broncos team. Lloyd Cushenberry was one of the worst graded centers in all of football last year. I also believe that Cushenberry was a big reason why we saw a decline from our 2 guard spots. That being said, I think Miners was amazing for a guard for a rookie. But again, when you have a nickname called the Belly, I think that says a lot. So
hey, stop talking about me.
Oh, wow.
And he has shirts. You can get one. So he either way, I think the center is a weak spot for our team, and I believe Wattenberg might be able to slide in there. I think he'll need to spend some time in the weight room throughout the early stage of the year. And if the Broncos are going to likely want to put the best offensive line on the field at the beginning of the season, in my opinion, I think Glasgow should really be slotted into the center position because I think his best position on the offensive line is center. Yes, he's tall, but I think you just want the best players there. And I think Wattenberg might be able to slot in there later in the season. And he's also a shorter guy, which is better for Russell Wilson, so he can see clearly over the center of the field.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So there you have it. The draft is over, and we're going to probably see another wave of free agency. So some names out there. We saw Tyrann Mathieu get signed. Saw Bryce Callahan, another dig at the Broncos, get signed. So we're waiting for Akeem Hicks and Julio Jones and Jarvis Landry and a few other guys to be signed. So definitely be some news.
What's the other guy? The edge, top pick.
Jadeveon Clowney.
Yeah, Clowney. That's it.
Clowney's still out there. So yeah, so definitely some guys, some big names, some household names still out there. To be had. So we definitely be a topic of discussion going forward, man. But I'm excited now. I definitely can't wait to OTAs. Hope everybody stays healthy, and we can get this thing going, man. Because I can't wait to minicamp.
And so I do have to mention for all the Broncos fans that are here, and Captain, you have heard me mention his name multiple times. The Broncos just re-signed on a 1-year deal Eric Saubert.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of the Broncos free agency, in my opinion, he is the one tight end that I think we just stole because to me, he is that perfect fit for that outside zone blocking style scheme. He can block, he can catch, he can kind of do all of the dirty work when you need him to. And in that style of offense, that's the exact type player that you want. If there's any other teams in the NFL that are looking for that proper style tight end that is just kind of does it all, Saubert is that Swiss Army knife that you're looking for. Saubert reminds me of a slightly better version of Moreau on the Raiders. Moreau has had some whiffs in his blocks, whereas Saubert has not.
Okay.
So I watched Moreau whiff a few blocks that got Carr sacked last year, and I also watched Moreau drop some passes.
Yeah, I got one in particular that Carr fumbled in the championship.
Right.
But
right.
you don't put him out there against one of the better defensive ends.
No,
and keep him on an island one-on-one. That's just stupid planning.
Right, and so my whole point ultimately is, I look at Moreau and I look at Saubert and I see very similar skill sets. But when I look at the key things that you would grade a tight end on, Saubert for me is slightly above Moreau just because I think he just, every grade on those key items like blocking, pass catching, awareness of edge rushers, that kind of stuff. Saubert just kind of has that half point, in my opinion, above Moreau in each one of those categories. And I like Moreau too. And you know that full well. I've made comments on Moreau, but in my opinion, Saubert is that half point above on each one of those grades. And so I think the Broncos got a steal in bringing him back. I think that everyone in the West should be paying attention to him because I think he'll see the field likely starting as tight end 2 for the Broncos with, I think Tomlinson, is the gentleman's name. That we brought back in as Tomlinson as likely being tight end 3 because he's more inline blocking, and then our rookie likely rounding out the room at tight end 4 with Dulcich.
Yeah, the Saubert deal was a parting gift for Bryce Callahan being moved on.
Thank you. I needed that.
Man, I tell you that horse is dead. It's buried. I mean, it's machine gunned. It's been mortared. It's been grenaded. Something about Bryce Callahan. That's all I'm saying because I've heard that name more often tonight. What was it? What was his name again, there, Coach?
Oh, which one?
The one that you keep mentioning. I'm just going to do one
Bryce
more
Callahan.
time. Right. No, I get one more time.
Okay.
One more time. There you go.
Well, I'm just glad you finally figured out that a horse and a donkey are not the same animal. So that's a good thing, because we keep getting those things crossed. I've heard donkey and horses being intermixed here. That's just weird. So anyways, I just really want to thank everyone for joining us tonight on the Wild Wild West podcast. Unfortunately, Jacob couldn't make it tonight. He had some personal items to attend to, and we weren't able to have him on. So unfortunately, the Chiefs representation wasn't here. That being said, I'm pretty sure all three of our teams are going to beat the Chiefs anyways. So I think that's fine.
No matter.
So we'll just move forward with that. With that in mind, guys, I really did want to thank everyone for joining us. All of our channels can be found below in the description of each of these videos. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you have questions for us that you didn't feel you were able to get in, or you were only able to catch us after we were live, leave those below, and we will do our very best to answer them to the best of our ability. Alternatively, you can find each of us on Twitter. My handle is right there. Coach Defense, you can just search Coach Defense, and I believe it's at locked on defense. No,
Lockdown defense.
Lockdown defense. Yep.
Yeah, lockdown defense.
And Captain Jack Rackham is all of those words combined without the little apostrophe dealy at the top.
Right. My captain is spelled CAPT on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can find Captain there on Twitter. Make sure you like and subscribe to all of our channels so you always stay up to date on each of our team's content. And with that in mind, guys, we will see you next week on Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Thank you very much.
Yeah!